Over the years, there have been dozens of long-forgotten Golden Age superheroes and supervillains that now seem lost to obscurity. For a while, one such figure seemed destined to be long forgotten. That is, until his relevancy perked up and he became entangled with Neil Gaiman in one of the most popular comic book series of the late 20th century. Of course, we are talking about the Sandman, the original Sandman. His real name, Wesley Dodds, a millionaire, sometimes a billionaire, an heir to a family fortune. He was created by writer Gardner Fox and artist Bert Christman. The Sandman was a character that had a lot in common with another superhero debuting at the same time, the Batman. One would catch fire and go on to become an icon of American pop culture. For the Sandman, he would never seem to truly break out and become the runaway success as his 1930s counterpart. As well, there is some discrepancy as to when the Sandman first appeared. If you search the internet, you are most likely going to get the answer Action Comics Volume 1, Issue 40 from July of 1939. But that is not exactly correct. The Sandman's actual first appearance occurred a few months earlier as part of the World's Fair in New York City, titled New York's World's Fair Comics Issue Number 1 from April of 1939. His appearance would change frequently, sometimes from panel to panel, especially the color of his outfit. Sometimes black, sometimes purple, sometimes beige. The consistency really wasn't there. However, some things remained constant. He did always wear a suit and a trench coat. He's skilled in acrobatics and hand-to-hand combat. He would employ a specialized gas gun that would immediately put his foes to sleep, and his face was covered by a World War I style gas mask to protect himself. And when he left the scene of whatever crime he thwarted, his signature calling card would always be left behind. A thin layer of sand covering the fallen thugs. Wesley Dodds was also a gifted inventor, an engineer, and a brilliant detective specializing in chemistry and physics. His arch enemies had names like Scorpion and Dr. Death. Later on, it would be revealed that Wesley had a connection to the dream world. He would actually dream of crimes not yet committed, and therefore would be able to predict where he needed to be to deliver justice. But in the beginning, this special ability was not there, and as was the trend in the 1930s and the 1940s, it was America's enemies that he would do battle with, spies and criminals bent on subverting the American dream, of subverting American prominence in an ever-changing world dominated by nationalism, fascism, and the threat of global war. And this is how the New York World's Fair would introduce the Sandman. His own plans for a powerful ray gun meant for the US government, stolen by spies and aided by one of his own corporate executives, corrupt to the core. It was a basic story, good versus evil, the righteous versus the corrupt, American strength versus foreign evil. Action Comics issue 40 would be just as straightforward. An heiress kidnapped and held for ransom, this time by the Tarantula. Wesley Dodds would don his costume and investigate, maneuvering through the police who considered him just as big a threat as any criminal. He would find the hidden passages within the heiress's mansion, discover her tied up, and use his gas gun to knock out the Tarantula's men. Then, using his brains over his brawn, he would lull the Tarantula into the parlor room, using his own coat and hat as a decoy. And when the Tarantula took the bait, the Sandman pounced, saving the girl and capturing the evildoer. After these debut issues, the Sandman would continue to appear in Action Comics, but then he became a part of comic book history. When the Justice Society of America debuted, the Sandman was one of the original founding members. But then, throughout the decades, his character would fade, soon be replaced. He would be used sparingly, especially during multiverse events and crisis, even sacrificing himself in the event known as Zero Hour. It seemed that the character of the Sandman had finally run its true course. Then came the 1990s, and Neil Gaiman, and Matt Wagner, and Steven Seagal. In 1993, Sandman Mystery Theater resurrected Wesley Dodds in a stylish film noir portrayal that would run until 1998. It was dark, it was gritty, it was pure 90s pop culture. However, it was Neil Gaiman in 1995 in the one-shot issue Sandman Midnight Theater, where we would get an answer to why exactly the Sandman had the ability to dream about crimes not yet committed. Wesley Dodds, in the course of investigating a secret occult society in London, would enter the basement chamber of an old mansion owned by the society leader, Roderick Burgess. There, seemingly imprisoned, was Dream, the entity most known for Neil Gaiman's epic and ethereal Sandman series. There was an obvious connection inferred between the two characters, as if Wesley Dodds received his psychic visions from this member of the Endless Seven. However, during this narrative, Wesley would not free Dream. He was incapable of understanding what it was that he was looking at, and the one-shot concluded with Wesley heading back to New York. And then, the Golden Age Sandman would get another chance at resurrection, this time in 2023 and 2024, with the limited series Wesley Dodds' The Sandman, which re-explored the beginnings of his heroic adventures. 6 issues, wonderfully illustrated, and a story of mystery, intrigue, of facing your own demons. A story where Wesley's failed experiments with sleep-inducing gas are stolen because those failed experiments are deadly, and the US government wants to employ them in the upcoming war in Europe. And we now see that Wesley's sleeping gas not only incapacitates, but during that sleep, those who have succumbed to the gas will feel the pain of every victim they ever harmed, for every mistake they ever made in life, for every slight, verbal or not, they will relive it and be subjected to all the agony and grief they have contributed into this world. And we'd be remiss if we did not mention that the Sandman has also suffered multiple deaths. In 1999, we consider it his classic death story. In the pre-Flashpoint continuity, Wesley Dodds died in JSA Secret Files and Origins #1, and then again his final appearance on Prime Earth in the issue titled Night Terrors, Night's End #1 from October of 2024, seems to be the final end of the Sandman, but one never knows, because remember, one is never truly dead in the comic books, and if the fans want it, and if the story needs it, and if the character is right for the moment, that character will return. So who knows what holds in the future for Wesley Dodds in the Golden Age classic, The Sandman. And there you have it, a brief history of The Sandman, one of the Golden Age of comics' forgotten gems, and a character that, if given a chance, could make for a great new run in the 21st century. I hope you enjoyed this look back at pop culture and comic book history. I thank you for watching. If you want more pop culture fun, click on the thumbnail at the end of the video for our look back at one of DC's most forgotten villains, Validus. You'll be glad you did. Until next time, remember I'm still your reluctant gringo and from somewhere south of the border. Salud and a huevo.